Hello, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. I'm sorry for
Okay,
it. Yeah.
okay. So this is Khalil here. Before I take you through the complete presentation, just give me a moment. Let me share my screen with you and
Yeah.
we will to go. I would take about half a minute before we proceed. So let me get the presentation in place.
Yeah. Sure. Take your time.
Let's see what you're saying. Okay, well, this is what I wanted you to say. Let's find out what we are going to be exploring today. Today we will be looking at a brief of data science, brief of Python, and let's uh, let's look at what we have. Historically, we did not have the processing power, nor did we have the amount of data. Today, when you're talking of the processing power, let's look at history. If you look at, let's say, 30 years back, now we are in 2019. If I say 2020, so 30 years back is what? 99, right? So 1989-90 was time frame when you did not really have too much of processing power. The cost of the machines was very steep, and the amount of data processing they could do was very less. Even if you look at high-end machines, whether you're working with mainframes or mid-ranges like AS400, there also you used to have limited processing power as compared to what you are having today. Today, your mobile, whatever high-end mobiles you may be using, the smartphones have more power as compared to what your mainframes used to have 30 years back. So let's see what you have today. Today, with the coming in of the digital revolution, you have data all over the world. You have data on WhatsApp, you have data on Instagram, you have data on Facebook, you have data on Twitter, you have data, you name it, you have everywhere. Today we have websites which are having so much of data that now the question is, what are you going to do with all this data which is being collected? Let us let us try and understand all this stuff. And this 1 hour or 45 minutes introduction to what we are seeing, we will need to understand where we are currently standing and where we are heading. We have data at different levels. Let's say, for example, I'm talking of data, and let's say I'm talking of a school child. Now, the school child has a report card in which, for that particular child, we have the name, the address, the age, the date of birth, whatever personal details of the child, plus we have the details related to the subjects which the child is studying and the marks obtained in the first test, the second test, the first exam, second exam, whatever the school curriculum is supposed to be. So when you look at all this data which is there with respect to one child, the parent and the child and the teacher are able to comfortably understand what is it that this particular data is telling, what is the story that data is telling. Now, when I say what's the story the data is telling, let us try and understand. 40 out of 100 is telling that the child needs to work or put in more effort in that particular subject, and 90 out of 100 is telling that the child has really put in a lot of effort to reach that 90. So that's the story behind that particular data. Now, going forward, let us try and understand this particular data related to that particular child is not a standalone data. Now, that data is part of a register which the class teacher is maintaining. So now when I look at that particular register, what is it that I'm seeing? Let us try and understand. In this register, I have, let's say, 30 students or 40 students or 50 students of the class, and all that data which is there is just a lot of numbers. Now, I need to understand this particular data. Now, it is difficult if I have to go through all the marks the students have scored in, let's say, maths. If I find all the students scoring less than 60%, it is telling me that either the children who started the class did not have the relevant stuff in them that they could actually learn this particular subject, this particular curriculum to the best extent they should be studying. Now, if I have to go through all this, what do I need to do? I need to actually look at it as a graph. What is the score of the various children? Instead of reading the numbers individually, I would rather read it in the form of a graph. I see that almost all the children have the same numbers, or maybe you have a mixed range. You have some people scoring maybe 40 out of 100, some people scoring 80 out of 100. Now that is telling me that it's not only where they're coming from, it also the amount of effort they have put in that they have scored a certain number of marks. Now, if I take this further up from the class, if I take it to the particular class in the entire school, we may have, let's say, 5 sections or 8 sections or 10 sections. I would like to know what is the quality of students when it comes to maths in, let's say, the 10th standard or the 5th standard. Then this graph is going to tell me that, you know, the quality of students which are there in that particular class. Now, if I take it further, if I take it from the school to the city's education department, now the amount of data this education department of the city has is so huge. Again, they can't be sitting with individual numbers and working with it. They will need to work with graphs. Now, if you go further up, maybe it is the state, the country, you'll see that the number of students you have in the entire country and the quality of students in maths, you know, all that kind of story which you're able to get. Different people at different levels are able to take different decisions. A school principal is in a position to take a decision. Okay, fine. I see that none of the children have scored beyond a 60. That means maybe I have to put in more effort to push these numbers from a 60 to a 80, or maybe I need to conduct some training for the teachers itself. So they may have to do some brainstorming to find out where they are. And if you find that if it comes to a particular country, maybe the education minister has to sit and take some decisions to find out why the numbers are not increasing. So based on the inputs which we have in the form of data, you have different people taking different decisions at different levels. Now, this was a very simple example. When it comes to a school, everyone has been a student and you'll be able to relate to this. Now, when you come to, let's say, for example, the bank, the financial transactions you have is so huge. The amount of fraud which we see in the banking industry is so huge. You have one person applying for multiple credit cards, taking all the money from the banker and then vanishing. Now, why was that happening? You don't get to see too many of these off late, but let's say if we go back 20 years back and we used to find a lot of such news, you know, there was a gang which was caught. 10 people were working together. They had 20 credit cards or 50 credit cards, and they had swiped the credit cards and, you know, done this A, B, C, D, E. You got to hear a lot of stories. Today, when you look at it, the credit card, even before the credit card is being issued, the bank is in a position to get the data of all these people who are applying for a credit card. They're applying for a bank loan, and they're trying to analyze what is the pattern of transactions. Should I really be giving a loan to this person? Is this person repaying the loan regularly to the other banker from where the person has taken the loan? Is it that the person's credibility has fallen or the person's credibility has improved? You have so many things which have come into today's market that we are able to analyze what is the quality of the person who is in front of you just by looking at their credit history. By looking at the spending pattern, we are able to understand whether this person is a spendthrift, where I get my salary on the 1st of the month, and probably by 5th or 6th of the month, I have blown up maybe 80% or 90% of my salary. Now that's not going to be giving a good feel for the banker to give me credit. So all these kind of information is available to you with the data which is available, provided I query the data to find out whatever I am looking for. So you have so much of data which is getting generated in a lot of places. Data is getting generated at the point of sale. I go to a supermarket, and in the supermarket, what I see is there is a place where I'm supposed to go and make the payment. That person is taking note of all the stuff which we have bought in the form of barcode reader, and the person is giving us a bill. Here is how much you need to pay if you need to be buying this this stuff which you have brought it in the basket. Now, all this information which is getting collected at the point of sale, there is someone, the manager at that particular organization level, taking a decision when to replenish the stock. There's someone who's sitting and taking account whether the company is making a profit or a loss. All this kind of information is available in the data which is getting generated. Now, this data which we have been discussing so far, whether it is bank transactions or the point of sale in a supermarket or the online transaction which you have made, or the school data which we have seen, all this is structured data. It is actually clean data which is available to you. But there is a lot of unstructured data which is available all around you. Unstructured data is available in social media. Now, when you're talking about social media, you have so many tools using which you're actually communicating, right? So you have your WhatsApp, your Telegram, you have so many tools which are available. Now, all these tools which you have, these have information, these have text which is being exchanged between people, maybe pictures are being exchanged between people. All this is unstructured data. Now the question is, how much data do we have? Google processes 20 PB a day. Now what is a PB? It is 1000 TB. And what's a TB? It is 1000 GB. And what's a GB? It's 1000 MB. And 1 MB is 1024 KB. So you have a huge amount of data which is processed on a per day basis by Google. Facebook has 60 TB of daily logs. Now it is on a daily basis we are talking about. eBay has 6.5 PB of user data and 50 GB per day. Now, when you're talking about all this, what is it telling you? It tells you that there is a huge amount of data, and when you're talking of a huge amount of data, it also means you need huge processing power to be working with this data. The cost of 1 TB of disk is $35, and to read this at 100 Mbps, you need 3 hours per TB. So how do you process so much of data? Now you are going to do some pick and choose when you're working with data science. How do we work with data? You also have a host of functionality which is available today. Historically, we had everything processed on one box. That was the centralized server, the mainframe. Then we had the concept of client server. Today, we are moving beyond that with new technologies coming in with the concept of big data, where we want to use huge functionalities like MapReduce and related technologies, where we want the data to be processed at different machines on the network. You also have the concept of hiring processing time from a server such as Google. I can say I can request Google to give me a 1 hour time to be processing 1 hour processing time, maybe for $10-20, whatever the cost may be, and I'll be in a position to process huge amounts of data. So all this is practical today because of the processing power which is available and the concept of distributed computing which we have, and all this is needed because of the amount of data we have. Now, when we have so much of data, what does it mean to us? Let us try and understand. We are in a position to predict a lot more stuff as compared to what we were predicting earlier. For example, Walmart found that when there was a particular weather forecast, people would tend to buy a lot more strawberries. Now, Walmart was able to find this out because of the amount of data they had on their servers. And what did they do? They made sure that when a certain weather forecast was, telecast on the television on whatever channels, they said, okay, fine, this means to us that we need to ship, a lot of strawberries to that part of the country so that, we have huge sales there. So depending on a lot of reasons, depending on a lot of factors, you are able to get to know the buying patterns. And because I get to know the buying pattern, I can make sure that a particular product is available to you when you need it, and I can make my profits. Now, what is this data science all about? Let us try and understand. An area that manages, manipulates, extracts, and interprets knowledge from tremendous amount of data. You've already seen the amount of data which we have. So we understand that with all this data, we are able to do a lot more things. Data science is a multidisciplinary field of study with goal to address the challenges in big data. Now let us try and understand what we just touched upon. I was talking about Walmart shipping strawberries to a particular part of the country because of a particular weather forecast. Now this tells us that there is a relationship between how the mind reacts to news, and now this was not something which we knew from our birth, which we did not know maybe 5 years back, but when we got to study the way, Walmart's sales increased when it came to strawberries, we thought, okay, fine, this is how they were able to do it. They were able to predict, okay, fine, we have this weather forecast. It means that, the people are going to buy strawberries now. So it is not a single discipline. There are multiple things which are involved. The more complex our brain, the more complex the data which we have, the more complex we need, the more effort we need to put in to actually get to the result. So we are able to get to the result, get to understand what is it that the market is thinking about. We have a lot of predictions which happen. Predictions are some things which I'm sure you have already experienced. Let's say, for example, you have Netflix. Now, if you watch movies on Netflix, if I go and search for the first time on Netflix, Netflix has no clue what is the kind of movies I see. Maybe it has some information if my YouTube account is connected. So it may give me some suggestions because you saw movie A, B, C, D, E, which were all related to, let's say, martial arts. I'm giving you another movie related to martial arts, a new release, probably you would want to see this. But let's say, for example, I'm one of those who's interested not in martial arts, but let's say, for example, something to do with romantic movies. It's not going to show me the martial arts movie. It is going to show me something to do with the area of my interest. So depending on what I have done historically, Netflix is able to understand what is it that would be of interest so that it can increase sales. So when you're working with data science is useful in a lot of places. Data science principles apply to all data, big and small. So it may be related to the data which is found in your school, or it may be the data which is available to the education minister of the country. So you have data science applied all over. I need to see it in the form of a graph, whether I need to train my teachers to improve the numbers of the children's scores, or I need to take a decision at the national level to include a particular subject in the school curriculum to improve the value system of the children coming out from this country. Theories and techniques from many fields and disciplines are used to investigate and analyze a large amount of data to help decision makers in many industries such as science, engineering, economics, politics, finance, education. You name it, you have application of data science in all areas. So if you're talking about data science in, let's say, engineering, if I'm talking about, let's say, 20 years back, we could not think of a self-driving car, an autonomous vehicle, if you will. But today we see that even school dropouts are thinking of an autonomous car, an autonomous vehicle. Google is investing a lot in a self-driving car. Today, I need to do the driving. Now, it is human to be tired. It is not natural for the machine to be tired. So I could sit back and relax, and the self-driving car takes me to my destination. I just have to tell where I need to go. How does it help the human race? The number of accidents which we are seeing on the street is on the higher side, maybe because someone was drunk on the wheel, maybe the person was tired on the wheel, maybe the person was distracted by a phone call on the wheel. What is the reason? Immaterial. Now, instead of having a human sitting on the wheel, driving the car, if we have a self-driving car, it simply takes care that you don't have to have so many accidents as you're having today. You have so many people dying on the road because of road accidents. The number of road accidents could reduce. When you're talking of computer science, pattern recognition, visualization, data warehousing, high-performance computing, databases, artificial intelligence, all these are areas of application of data science. Mathematical modeling. Now that's another area of application of data science and mathematics. Statistics and stochastics modeling, probability. Now all these areas we will be in a position to apply data science. Now what is the statistics all about? Let's go back to our school example. When the education minister picks up the data of the complete country's students, the education minister is able to analyze, okay, fine, this year as compared to last year, the numbers in maths for, let's say, class 10 has reduced. What is the reason? Maybe the person will be able to find out what were the number of holidays given in the last year and this year. What is the amount of time the children spent in the classroom as compared to on the sports ground? Maybe the education minister would put in a lot of effort to find out where things went wrong, and this would be the statistics which were, the statistics would give the feedback, okay, fine, it is due to this reason that the numbers have come down, we need to do some fine-tuning here. So there is input given to the schools to change whatever they were doing to make sure that the numbers increase, the quality of the students increase. Does anyone have any doubts or questions? You could share your questions in case you have any. Okay, looks like no questions. Let's go on to see what we have. Data science is multidisciplinary. You have scientific methods, math, statistics, advanced computing, visualization, hacker mindset. So I need to find out what's the mindset of a person who's trying to hack into the system. You could relate this to the financial fraud we discussed some time back related to credit card transactions and so on. Domain expertise, it could be related to any domain. It may be related to, let's say, maybe logistics, which is nothing related to computer science. Now that's domain expertise, maybe accounting, maybe psychology, You have so many more things other than computer science, where you may use the domain expertise, data engineering. So you have a host of areas where data science is applied. As we saw in the Walmart example, it was related to the psychology. There was a link between the thought process of a person in a particular area with a particular weather forecast. Now that's related to a psychological prediction which you have done. Some examples: Netflix. Yes, Netflix is an example where you have a recommendation. You have self-driving cars. You have text recognition. Now, where is it that you have seen text recognition? Let's try and understand. You are on the street, you are on a highway driving your car, and let's say, for example, the speed limit is a certain number, and you have crossed it. You get to see that there is a challan, a fine which you need to pay, and that has arrived at home. There is a police department notice which says you need to pay a fine of so-and-so, and it has come here. How did that happen? That's basically because when the car was overspeeding, there was a picture which was taken, and from that picture, the characters were extracted, and these characters were matched to numbers, and those numbers, it came up as a particular registration number. Now this registration number was sent to a database of all the vehicles. It was matched with your vehicle number. It did a lookup of the particular name and address of the owner of that particular vehicle, and there was a notice printed indicating that you did an overspeeding at this particular location, and this is the amount of fine you need to be paying, and this is going to come to your mailbox, and you are expected to be paying this. Spam filtering is an example where data science is applied. Those of you who have been using Gmail, you have been seeing spam for ages now. Whenever Gmail started, maybe 2005, 2006 timeframe when Gmail started, around that time itself, we have been seeing this concept of spam filtering, where you could, any unnecessary mail would not be appearing on your primary window, and it goes into spam. So you don't have to waste time reading things which are not really important for you. But sometimes the spam filter makes some mistakes and sends actual mail into spam. That's basically because of the kind of messages which are sent by whoever is sending the message to my mailbox. If I have a message which has a subject like hi and hello, probably Gmail spam filter assumes that this hi and hello is actually an unnecessary message which is coming. So there are some rules which are applied to find out whether it is spam or otherwise. So those are just a brief, a very simple, very, very tiny little list of examples of data science. This data science workflow. So let's see what we have. Business understanding. We need to first understand the business, and then we need to understand the data. Let's talk about, let's say, banking. The business of banking is lending money and expecting a small interest component to make money out of whatever money they have. So we understand that it is about lending and charging interest. Now we come to the data. Let us see what we have with data understanding. I have data related to all people in this particular country who have been using the banking system. So what I do is, when someone applies for a credit card, I need to actually do a lookup. Has this person applied for a credit card earlier? If the answer is yes, was it given or not given? If the answer is yes, if the credit card was issued to this particular person, then how was the usage and how was the repayment. So all these things I need to understand. So this comes from data understanding. Data importing, I need to be importing this information. That's when I can, by a lookup, that's when I can get to understand what information is there in that particular data. Data cleaning and manipulation. What is this supposed to be? Let's try and understand. Now, when you're working with data, it's not always that you get all the data, and it's not always that you get the correct data all the time. What is that supposed to be? Let's try and understand. Let's say, for example, there is a form you need to fill up. Let's say you are applying for a bank loan, and you are supposed to be, uh, screened whether I should be giving you the loan or otherwise. So how does it work? Let's try and understand. So when you filled up the form, there's a possibility that by mistake, you gave a wrong phone number. You gave me only 9 digits where it was supposed to be 10 digits, or you gave me only 7 digits where it was supposed to be 8 digits. So I need to actually do some data cleaning before making calls. So all the data which is generated on the website, that is going to be screened, and in case the number is not correct, it never goes to the end user who is going to be making calls or who is going to be sending out mails, whatever. They are not going to process that data at all. So there has to be data which is cleaned. Maybe if I give you 11 digits instead of 9, again, it needs cleaning. And after this cleaning, the data has to be processed. Coming to statistical modeling and machine learning, the machine is going to learn what is the next process. Like, say, for example, when I'm talking of spam filtering, the machine is learning from your inputs, the inputs of others. I see a particular message in a particular format going to a lot of people. I assume it is spam. So all those things are going to give you information related to the data itself. And reporting and visualization, as I mentioned earlier, all the data which is there in the school system, that cannot be read with individual, up to the individual student level by the education minister. So that person is just going to see the graph. Okay, where is the quality of students when it comes to a maths or a science or English, whatever the subject they are currently focusing on. Steps involved in data science process: frame the problem. First of all, understand what is it that you're trying to answer. Collect the raw data needed for your problem. Let's shift our focus from the school department to, let us say, we are interested in stocks. Let's say we want to look at financial markets. So let's say my challenge is I want to make some money in the stock market. As I want to make some money on the stock market, I have decided what is my investment. Now, I need some raw data, some historic data of this particular problem situation. Let's say I am interested in investing in the stocks of Google, and I want to predict if this is a good bet or I should avoid investing in Google at this point of time. So how do I take a decision? So I need to download all the data which is available to me with respect to the stock of Google, and then I will need to process this data and analyze where is the trend moving. So I have, let's say, data for the last 1 year. So I see that the graph is going south. It means that I should not be investing. If the graph is going north, I know that I need to be investing. So I need to process the data. And once I process the data and explore, I need to perform in-depth analysis. Should I really invest in this at this point? Maybe it's a flat graph. I may not want to be investing at this point of time because I may not want to be investing in this because the graph is flat. I don't want to have my money blocked here for a long time. So all these things you need to take decisions. And once you have taken this decision, you'll need to take action. Now you have a lot of companies which are doing this work related to stocks. They just do the analysis and give you the inputs, and you can take a decision, you can make money, and maybe you can pay for that, or maybe you can do a profit sharing. Depending on different companies, they have different models. So they communicate the results to you. So this is the stock which is going to move from A point to B point. So this is the time when you should be investing, and this is the point when you should be selling the stock. So all these kind of things you will have when you have the data. Now let's go on to understand who are data scientists. Data scientists are key to realizing opportunities presented by big data. So I just spoke about, let's say, the stock market. So here is an opportunity which I am presenting to you. If you invest in a stock today, there's a possibility that you may make 20% by end of the week. Now that is the opportunity which is being presented, and who's doing this? That is going to be done by the data scientist. The person analyzes the trend, understands that, this is what it is, probably tries to apply what happened historically, probably apply the same logic to data 1 year behind, and find out whether the prediction was correct or otherwise, and they give you this particular information, and you can take a decision. Data scientist is supposed to be the most interesting job of the 21st century. You find a lot of stories. You can get a lot of knowledge from whatever data you have. It's going to be very interesting if you are one of those who is interested in working with data, working with statistics. Now, what you need to understand is the industry is moving towards working with data, whether you like it or not. The amount of data which we have, the amount of opportunity which is presented by the data which you have is tremendous. You go to Google and you search for a particular item, you want to buy something. Let's say you are visiting a friend or colleague and you want to gift something to that person or to that person's child, and you bought something which is of interest to the child. Maybe it's a toy, maybe it's a cloth, a garment for the child. The next moment you see that you get all advertisements related to that particular product being presented to you on your browser. How did this happen? This is basically because of the background machine learning which is happening, the data analysis which is happening in the background, which is telling you, look, this is an opportunity for you to sell this product and make money. So that's the reason why a certain advertisement was presented to you. Now, let us try and understand why Python, or what is Python. Python is a 4th generation programming language. It is a purely object-oriented programming language. And because it's a 4th generation programming language, it is extremely easy to learn this programming language. And it's an open source programming language, dynamic. Now, what does it mean? Unlike other programming languages where you need to create a variable by giving an int x, you directly give x is equal to 10, and you have created a variable of type x. Depending on the data which you have entered, Python is going to determine to which class does this object belong. It presents you with very simple syntax, which is very easy to understand, easy to learn, and you'll be able to quickly write programs in Python. When you're working with Python, Python gives you so much of flexibility. You have very simple coding guidelines. When I say it is purely object-oriented programming language, what does it mean? Let us try and understand. It is very close to real life, which means that whatever you do with Python, you can actually relate to whatever you have done in real life. It supports a lot of features with respect to object-oriented programming, whether it is polymorphism, whether it is multiple inheritance, operator overloading. All these things are available to you. It supports multiple inheritance, multi-level inheritance. It has the concept of constructor, destructor, all that stuff which you did with respect to object-oriented programming in other programming languages, you can see it here. Having said that, if you're not one of those people who has done object-oriented programming, you'd be better off because you don't really need to learn object-oriented programming. Object-oriented programming is the natural thought process when it comes to every human being. Because Python is available for free, you can not only download the executables, you can also download the source code because it's an open source programming language. It's a cross-platform programming language, which means I can write programs in one operating system and execute it on any other operating system which has Python interpreter installed. When you compare Java with Python, for a simple Hello World program in Java, the code has to be these 5 lines. Of course, the last 2 lines are only flower brackets. But then when you're working with Python, it's just a print Hello World. Now, let me quickly show this to you on the system so that you can appreciate it better. So let me share the interpreter with you. So here is my interpreter. I am bringing up Python. This is Python 27. So I'm loading it in a 2.x. I will also show it to you in 3.x. There also it is very simple. So I just give a print, good morning, and I get to see a good morning. So if, let us say, for example, I load it in a 3.x, let's say I load it in 3.x, I give Python here. This is a 3.x, a 3.7. I give a print, print good morning. So I get to see the same on the screen. So when you're working with Python, Python has very simple syntax. You don't have to worry about complex syntax as you see in other programming languages. So we have just seen this on the system. You can work with strings. So here is Python 3.x. I can give s is equal to good morning, how are you today? Let's say good morning. And I can give s of 0, I get the G, s of 1, s of 2. Now, when you're working with this particular object, you can find out what is the type of object by giving type of s, it's a string. I can give help of str. I can get all that help which I need. I can give dir of str. Dir of str, it gives me all those attributes and methods. You see that it's giving you a rich functionality with respect to strings. Similarly, if I give x is equal to 10, this is an integer. So type of x is integer. So if I give a dir of x, I'm able to get to see all that functionality with respect to integers. Observe that there are some similarities and some differences. There is no double underscore abs double underscore in the str, but there is a double underscore add double underscore in the string and the integer. So you have rich functionality which is available in Python. So you can work with concatenation. I can give a good plus morning and I get to see a good morning. So you have concatenation. Let's say I have a good and I give a into 5. I get to see the same string 5 times. So that's your operator overloading, which you're seeing. Similarly, when you're working with Python, you have the concept of lists and tuples. Now, what is that supposed to be? You can have a structure which can take any kind of data. I can use a 0, a 1. So I can have any kind of data. So here I see both the numbers and the strings. So I can use a L of 0 and L of 1. So it can give me any kind of data. It will allow me to work with it. Similarly, you have the concept of tuples and dictionaries and so on. When you're working with data science in Python, we have a host of functionality which is allowed in Python. Now, what's the kind of functionality which Python allows? Let us try and understand. We have a lot of modules which are available. You could import modules like NumPy, SciPy, Pandas, Matplotlib. All these are libraries which are available to you. So I'm just loading all these modules. These are modules which we use for data science. So when you're working with these modules, these are modules which will allow you to do a lot of things. Let us look at a very simple piece of code when it comes to, let us say, drawing a graph. So with this, let me bring up a simple example with respect to Matplotlib. So I have imported NumPy. Let me do a from Matplotlib import plt, import pyplot as plt. Plt is actually an alias for you. And okay, by the time that node loads, let me get some stuff on the notepad. Let me write some code. X is equal to, let's say, numpy dot a range of 0, 10. Okay, I think it's time that I execute it directly here. Okay, and then I do a y is equal to the caret is the XOR there. Z is equal to X XOR 3. So I'm trying to come up with a simple example so that you can understand, how graphs are drawn and how multiple graphs can be drawn is what we want to work with. So let me do a plt.plot directly, and I'm giving x comma y. And once this is plotted, I will just do a plt.show. Let's find out what it does. It has given me a graph like this. Now, if I chose to, the y and the z and the t which I have, these can also be used, and I could be drawing a graph. Observe that this graph, if you are one of those who has worked with MATLAB, you are able to relate to the MATLAB kind of graphs, and you can do this. Observe that this piece of this graph is for maybe just about 3-4 lines of code. I've imported the modules, and then I've done a x is equal to numpy dot a range, and I have a numbers from 0 to 10, and then I have the y. I'm not even using the z and the t. I'm just using the x and y, and I have plotted this particular graph. So this shows you how easily we can do it. When you're working with Python, it allows you to read data from various data sources. You can read data from databases, whether it is MySQL, SQL Server, MS SQL Server, Oracle, Sybase. You could also read data from JSON files, XML files, XLS files. You have all that kind of data which is available to you. Now, instead of getting the X and Y from the numbers which we just created, which we just generated here, let me show you what the X and the Y are for you. This is the X and this is the Y for you. So instead of getting this kind of data, I may be getting this data from an Excel sheet. So I could be generating the graphs from data available from the Excel sheet. Now, the X may be the years, and the Y may be the number of students who studied in a particular standard, a particular class, if you will, in that particular year. So this kind of a stuff can be used to generate plots. You may be reading data from databases to get it. So with this, we see that we have just briefly touched upon what you can do with Python. A 1 hour introduction is actually too less when it comes to, because Python is very, 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 very huge. I've tried to do some justice with what you can do. The pathway, the route map, or the ladder, if you will, when you're learning Python, we start off with Python, then we learn data science, and the next level would be your artificial intelligence, and the next level to that is a machine learning. Then you have deep learning, and you have natural language processing, you have robotics, you have a huge amount of potential when you learn data science in Python. The number of doors of opportunities which are open when you study data science is something unlimited. And today, being in the industry, in the IT industry, not looking at data science seriously would be a serious mistake when it comes to your career graph. I would like to know if you have any questions or any doubts which you want me to answer. Does anyone have any doubts or questions? Feel free to ask your questions. Does anyone have any doubts or questions? Okay, as we do not have any questions, let me give you some more details related to your NumPy and SciPy and the various functionality which you have. So when you're working with, just give me. When you're working with Python, Python gives you some functionality there when it comes to question box. I don't see the questions at all. Does anyone have any questions? I'm not seeing any questions. Could someone check
Hi,
questions
Mr.
with me,
Holil.
please? Wendy?
Hello.
Hi,
Yeah, Mr.
Wendy.
Holil. Yes. So, Mr. Holil, here's we got so many questions from the participants, and maybe I can read for you.
Please read that for me, please.
Yeah, sure. So, the first question is from Muhammad Sigit.
Okay.
He asks, hello, how is the technique or tools for collecting data from social media?
Okay. This is a question related to collecting information from social media.
Yes.
Whether you're working with Facebook or whether you're working with Instagram, whether you're working with Twitter, all these will give you interfaces where you can actually gather the data from them. So you can actually gather data from all the social media platforms, and we will be learning how to do that in the session.
Oh. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah. Okay. Cool, Mr. Haris. So there's second question for Mohsandi Salas.
Okay.
Am I must mastering programming to study data science? Because sometimes I struggle at programming. Thank you.
Okay. The
So
reason
just
why you're struggling with programming is because of a mental block. Normally, we come with a mental block which says it is difficult for me. So let us try and understand. Programming is extremely easy. Now, having said that, the question you're having is, then why is it that I am finding it difficult? You're finding it difficult because we do not choose to grow up. What does it mean? Let us try and understand. Now, we think the way we think and act the way a 3-year-old child does or a 4-year-old child does. Let's try and understand what this means. When you are given any task, similar to the way the small tiny tot would like to eat the whole of whatever is offered one shot, we try to answer that question one shot. So if you can break it down into smaller components, if you can write down in simple plain spoken English. If you're not comfortable at English, you can actually write it down in your mother tongue. Write down whatever question you have, write down how can I do that if I have to do it manually, and you will be in a position to answer that question very quickly.
All right, cool. So there's one more question. This is from Ardi Wiryadinata. Can data science do a forecasting?
The answer to this question is yes, you can do forecasting. Forecasting is used in weather forecasting and forecasting of stocks on a day-to-day basis. People are using this to find out what will be the value of a particular company's stock. And what they do is, based on the outcome, they take a decision whether they need to buy the stock or sell the stock. All this is practical.
Oh. Okay, cool, Mr. Hollier. Thank you. Thank you for the
Thank you very much.
presentation. It's very insightful and very useful for us. I'm sure all the attendants here is very enjoy your presentations. We got a lot of
Thank you so
insight from
much.
you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. You have kind words.
Yeah. Okay. So, guys, it's a wrap. That's all the time we have for our webinar today. Please look for our follow-up email that will alert you to the on-demand status of today's event so you can review any material you missed or simply go over again. Jadi guys, jika kalian tertarik untuk kelas yang lebih advance and complete, silakan sign up di website kita. Nanti tim Burap akan menghubungi kamu ya. Nah, untuk tadi teman-teman yang udah share pertanyaan, ternyata banyak banget nih yang share pertanyaan kan. Nanti kita bisa langsung melalui WhatsApp dan email. Nanti kita bisa reach out kalian langsung, oke? Nah, kalau misalnya kalian, sekali lagi, kalau kalian mau join start di kelas 6 jamnya, mulai dari Rp299.000. Untuk kelas flex dan immersive sendiri, mulai dari Rp6.999.000. Tapi nggak usah khawatir, karena kamu bisa cicil loh guys. Oke, jadi kapan lagi bisa belajar sama expert dari Silicon Valley langsung dengan harga yang terjangkau dan waktu yang fleksibel, setuju nggak? Oke guys, on behalf of Mr. Khalil as well as the team at Burak, thank you for joining us and taking time to attend our webinar ya. My name is Windy, have a good evening.